This message comes from NPR sponsor Odoo. Some describe Odoo like a magic beanstalk because it scales with you and is magically affordable. Odoo, exactly what a business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Giles Snyder. President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witcof, was in Israel this weekend, where he met with family members of hostages still being held by Hamas. Following the meeting, Ruby Chen, the father of one of the hostages, said he believes Witcof is on their side.
We feel that Mr. Witcof is very much with the families. He feels us, he understands us, and he said that he's going back to Washington, where he will share these stories with the president himself.
A statement from hostage families quotes Witcof as saying an end to the war between Israel and Hamas is very close. However, Hamas has repeatedly said it will not lay down its weapons, and the group said this weekend that it would not relinquish them until a Palestinian state is established. Those wildfires burning in Canada leading to air quality concerns in the U.S. Parts of the Midwest, as well as upstate New York and northern New England, remain under air quality alerts for smoke. Danny Van Cleve is the National Weather Service meteorologist in Milwaukee.
Based on the latest forecast models, there's really not going to be anything to push this smoke out of here over the next day or two, so we would probably expect it to hang on through at least the early part of the week.
Last week, a busy week for economic news, ending with that weaker than expected jobs report showing the country added just 73,000 jobs last month, and that job creation was weaker in May and June than previously reported. The jobs reports and President Trump's latest tariff rollout led Wall Street to fall the most since May. Here's NPR's Maria Aspen.
For the typical worker, slow hiring is obviously not good, and for consumers, we're looking at higher prices. We already saw consumer prices rising last month, according to government data, and we're seeing more big companies warning that tariffs are eating into their financial results. That will eventually trickle down to the prices they charge us for their products. We just don't know how much and when.
Major portions of the European Union's new legislation governing artificial intelligence have now come into force, and here's Terry Schultz reporting.
A year after the EU's AI Act went into effect, the next stage in implementing the landmark legislation began Saturday. The act is aimed at making sure artificial intelligence is used safely and responsibly, and regulates AI systems based on their perceived level of potential risk to users. Some of the latest obligations affect providers of general-purpose AI, or GPAI models, which include X's Grok and OpenAI's ChatGPT. The rules require more transparency on how AI models are trained and better enforcement of copyright protections. The EU has created a code of practice with the help of experts to give providers guidance on complying with the new requirements. Signing up to the code is voluntary. Meta is the only major provider that has refused to do so. For NPR News, I'm Terry Schultz.
And you're listening to NPR News. Anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine say they've uncovered a major bribery scheme in the buying of drones and electronic warfare systems used by the military. 4 suspects have been arrested 2 days after the agency's independence was restored following major protests. The Smithsonian denying that the White House had anything to do with the removal of references to President Trump's impeachments from an exhibit. The museum issued a statement this weekend and previously said his impeachments will be included in an updated presentation. It's not clear when that new exhibit will be ready. In Rock Hill, South Carolina, almost 5,000 players competing in this weekend's World Championship of Cornhole. From member station WFAE, Nick Delacanal has more.
All right, everybody, make some noise. Let's get loud.
Cheers fill the Rock Hill Arena, where players toss beanbags at slanted boards in the high-stakes tournament. Players from 50 states and 10 countries are competing. Katrina Belitz of Croatia says her parents still don't get it.
They're asking me, why are you throwing that bag so much?
But, says EJ Vondran from Germany,
Then they see it on TV and they see us and I think they know it's real.
the American Cornhole League launched the event in 2016. This year, there's $200,000 in prize money. The finals air Sunday on ESPN. For NPR News, I'm Nick Delacanal in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Today is the final day of the world's largest annual gathering of twins. The Twins Day Festival in Twinsburg, Ohio is celebrating its 50th annual gathering. I'm Giles Snyder. This is NPR News.
This message comes from Warby Parker. What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost, like free adjustments for life. Find your pair at warbyparker.com or visit one of their hundreds of stores around the country. This message comes from NPR sponsor Odoo. Some describe Odoo like a magic beanstalk because it scales with you and is magically affordable. Odoo, exactly what a business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Giles Snyder. Authorities in western Montana have lifted a lockdown in the small town of Anaconda, but they're still urging residents to be cautious. A manhunt is ongoing for an Army veteran suspected of fatally shooting 4 people in a bar on Friday, as NPR's Matt Bloom reports.
Multiple state and federal agencies have spent the weekend searching a mountainous area of the state, including in helicopters. They also released more information about the suspect, posting a security camera photo online of Michael Paul Brown fleeing the scene barefoot, wearing nothing but black shorts. On Saturday, law enforcement searched Brown's residence next door to the Owl Bar. Town of Anaconda Police Chief Bill Sather called it a stressful and tragic time.
We're keeping everyone affected in our thoughts and prayers. Please stay alert, stay safe, Anaconda.
Many local businesses have been allowed to reopen, but authorities say Brown is believed to be armed and dangerous. Matt Bloom, NPR News.
Members of the Senate have left Washington. Majority Leader John Thune sent senators home last night for their August recess without a deal to advance dozens of President Trump's nominees. Republicans say they may try to change Senate rules over Democratic delaying tactics to speed up the process. Dozens of Trump's nominees have yet to be confirmed, but before leaving town, senators did confirm former Fox News host Jeanine Pirro as the top federal prosecutor for Washington, D.C. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has described as absolutely immoral acts of corruption uncovered by the country's anti-corruption agencies. They say they found large-scale bribery in the buying of drones and electronic warfare systems used by the military. 4 suspects have been arrested, including one member of parliament from Zelensky's party. Here's the BBC's Grant Ferret.
The scheme allegedly involved state contracts with suppliers being signed at prices which were inflated by up to 30%. As well as an MP who hasn't been named, those detained include local officials and a member of the military. The anti-corruption agencies said their work had been made possible by the restoration of their independence after a swift U-turn in recent days by President Zelensky. He backed a new law after his attempt a week earlier to impose political control on the agencies prompted nationwide protests.
Pope Leo has capped a week of events aimed at energizing young Catholics by urging the next generation to make radical choices.
Reflect on your way of living. Seek justice in order to build a more humane world.
Leo spoke to a massive crowd of young people gathered in a field on the outskirts of Rome, many of whom camped out after attending a vigil service for the Jubilee of Youth last night. Leo is the first U.S.-born pope. He was elected in May by the Church's cardinals to replace the late Pope Francis. This is NPR. Cambodia is preparing to nominate President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. The decision comes after recent border clashes between Cambodia and its neighbor Thailand. They were reportedly resolved in part due to an intervention by President Trump. From Taipei, Jan Camerson Brumby has more.
The border clashes between the two Southeast Asian nations killed more than 40 people and displaced more than 300,000. The 5-day dispute was ended in part thanks to a phone call by President Trump that helped to break the deadlock in ceasefire negotiations. Cambodia has thanked Trump for bringing peace to the region. Trump has done much to, quote, advance fellowship between nations, Cambodia's Deputy Prime Minister Sun Chantol said. Chantol added, quote, we acknowledge his great efforts for peace. Thailand has since returned 2 wounded Cambodian soldiers, but is reportedly holding on to 18 more. For NPR News, I'm Jan Camerson Brumby in Taipei.
A volcano in Russia's far east has erupted for the first time in hundreds of years. Russian news agencies are quoting the head of the Kamchatka Volcanic Eruption Response Team as saying the eruption overnight is the first since 1463. Russia's Ministry for Emergency Services in Kamchatka says the volcano sent an ash plume more than 3 miles into the sky. At the Swimming World Championships in Singapore, the U.S. has several chances to win gold today, including in the men's and women's 4x100 medley relays. Also, world record holder Bobby Fink is swimming the 1500 free. I'm Giles Snyder. This is NPR News from Washington.
This message comes from Sattva. Getting quality sleep can improve athletic abilities, increase energy, and boost memory and learning. Sattva mattresses are designed to promote that kind of sleep. Save $200 on $1,000 or more at sattva.com/NPR. This message comes from NPR sponsor Odoo Business Management Software. Some say Odoo is like fertilizer because it promotes growth. Others say it's a magic beanstalk, scaling with efficiency. Odoo, exactly what a business needs. Sign up today at odoo.com.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. As part of his trip to Israel, U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witcof met Saturday with family members of hostages still in Gaza. In a statement after the meeting, he said that he was committed to bringing all 50 remaining hostages, both living and dead, back to Israel. NPR's Emily Fang met afterward with some of those families.
The hostages' families chanted, "You are not alone, we are with you," and they held pictures of their loved ones after meeting Witcof. Here's Ruby Chen, the father of Itai Chen, an Israeli soldier and one of 2 remaining U.S. citizens held in Gaza.
Just listening to each family member, what he has to say, and hear their pain, and make it personal. And I think that by itself is commendable.
The Israeli government believes both Americans are no longer alive. Hen and other families are pushing for an immediate ceasefire with Hamas so the approximately 20 hostages still believed to be alive can come home, along with the remains of Hen's son and other hostages who've died in captivity. Emily Fang, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Democratic senators are continuing to attack President Trump's trade war with much of the rest of the world. This week, Trump announced new tariffs for more than 60 nations. Senator Chris Coons of Delaware says he's hearing a lot of complaints from business leaders in his states.
I've heard one consistent theme from business. They need predictability. And this chaos around Trump's tariffs isn't good for any business in America.
Trump's trade war has increased the average U.S. tariff from 2.5% at the start of 2025 to 18.3% now. That's the highest average rate since the Great Depression. Justice Department officials in Los Angeles are accusing a Southern California man of providing money to ISIS. We have more from Steve Futterman.
The complaint accuses Mark Lorenzo Villanueva of attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. The government says, according to Western Union records, the 28-year-old sent 12 payments totaling more than $1,600 to a pair of intermediaries who identified themselves as Islamic State fighters. Villanueva is a legal permanent resident originally from the Philippines. According to the complaint, Villanueva at one point said, "Someday soon I will be joining." At the time of his arrest, the FBI recovered what appears to be a bomb from his home. The charge he faces carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
Police are continuing at this hour their search in a mountainous area of western Montana for 45-year-old Michael Brown. They say Brown shot and killed 4 people in a bar in Anaconda Friday morning, and they say they consider the Army veteran to be armed and dangerous. His niece says Brown has struggled for years with mental illness. You're listening to NPR News. University of Colorado football coach Deion Sanders told the World on Monday that he underwent bladder reconstructive surgery. The surgery changes to the way one uses the restroom. Sanders joked about this during his press conference, saying that he now depends on the adult diapers known as Depends. Sarah Bowden reports that the Pro Football Hall of Famer's openness is now helping others.
An estimated 85,000 people in the U.S. will get bladder cancer this year, and some, like Sanders, will have to have their bladder removed and then get reconstructive surgery. Dr. Max Cates is a urologist at Johns Hopkins University. He says patients can feel ashamed about the changes to their body, so he applauds Sanders sharing about his recovery.
The way Sanders did that was so authentic and almost loving.
Kate says the attention Sanders is bringing to bladder cancer will save lives. For NPR News, I'm Sarah Bowden.
The World Dog Surfing Championship is taking place near San Francisco this weekend. Organizers say about 15 to 20 animals are registered for the competition at Pacifica State Beach. While the main event focuses on individual dogs catching waves, there are also heats featuring more than one dog surfing on a single board, as well as dogs surfing with humans. Cat videos are no longer just for the internet. A 73-minute compilation of the videos is being shown this weekend in more than 500 independent movie theaters across the U.S. and Canada. A portion of the proceeds will benefit cat-focused charities and shelters. The Cat Video Fest is now in its 8th year and has expanded into international markets as well. I'm Dale Willman, NPR News.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch. This message comes from NPR sponsor Odoo. Some describe Odoo like a magic beanstalk because it scales with you and is magically affordable. Odoo, exactly what a business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. President Trump announced new tariff rates for more than 60 countries this week. It's his latest move in a months-long effort to get deals with America's trading partners. NPR's Jackie Northam tells us about the effect negotiations are having on one country on that list.
Canada, one of the U.S.'s largest trading partners, wasn't spared from this latest round of tariffs. Trump ratcheted up levies on many goods to 35%, citing what he called a flood of fentanyl crossing the border, despite many sources disputing that claim, including U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who was elected about 3 months ago largely on the belief he could wrangle Trump, said he was disappointed, but that Canada will continue to negotiate with the U.S. on the trading relationship.
That's NPR's Jackie Northam. India, meanwhile, is now responding to threats from President Trump over India's use of Russian oil. Trump this week said he'll place a 25% tariff on goods from India, along with an additional import tax because India purchases oil from Moscow. India's foreign ministry says its relationship with Russia is steady and time-tested. India buys millions of barrels of oil each year from Russia. The U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East met Saturday with some families of hostages still being held in Gaza. Ruby Chen is the father of U.S.-Israeli hostage Itay Chen. He says Steve Witkoff told the families that the U.S. wants two things: to end the war and get all the remaining hostages out.
We feel that Mr. Witcof is very much with the families. He feels us, he understands us, and he said that he's going back to Washington, where he will share these stories with the president himself.
After the meeting, Witkoff told the families the U.S. is very close to ending the war. As Republicans in the Texas legislature continue their efforts to change political districts in the state, their current proposed redistricting map would force a number of Democratic members of Congress out of their home districts. As Texas Public Radio's David Martin Davies reports, Congressman Joaquin Castro says his home district in San Antonio is one that's being deliberately torn up.
Texas is undergoing a rare mid-decade redistricting after President Donald Trump called for 5 additional Republican seats to help retain GOP control of Congress after the midterm election. Castro said he and Representative Jasmine Crockett and other Democrats saw their district redrawn with their homes outside of their districts that they represent.
My office got a call from the Texas Legislative Council shortly before we saw those first maps, and they asked me to verify my home address. And then when I saw the map, my home was about a half mile outside of the boundary for the 20th Congressional District that I now represent.
Texas currently has 38 seats in Congress. 25 are held by Republicans. I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
Smoke from wildfires burning in Canada is causing problems for several Midwestern states this weekend with air quality alerts across the region. You're listening to NPR News. Gaza health workers say Israeli forces opened fire near two aid distribution sites on Saturday. Witnesses say at least 10 people were killed in this latest incident. The shooting took place near two aid distribution sites that are run by the Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as crowds of hungry Palestinians looked for food and other aid. The shooting took place just one day after U.S. officials visited a similar site. A coalition of 15 state attorneys general filed a lawsuit Friday against the Trump administration's actions related to gender-affirming care for transgender youth. As NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports, the complaint argues the White House has mounted an unconstitutional pressure campaign against doctors and hospitals.
There is no federal statute that prohibits providing puberty blockers, hormones, or, in rare cases, surgery to transgender youth. These attorneys general say the Trump administration is trying to create a national ban through a campaign of intimidation. The complaint says the Trump administration has targeted doctors and hospitals providing this care by issuing subpoenas, threatening criminal prosecution, launching investigations, and demanding patient data. It was filed in federal court in Massachusetts. The plaintiff states are places where this care is illegal, including New York, Connecticut, California, and Wisconsin. In a statement, they say they're asking the court to, quote, halt this unconstitutional pressure campaign and ensure transgender youth can continue to access legally protected health care without fear. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
And I'm Dale Willman, NPR News.
This message comes from Warby Parker. What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost, like free adjustments for life. Find your pair at warbyparker.com or visit one of their hundreds of stores around the country.
This message comes from Capital One with the Capital One Saver Card. Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. Trade negotiations between the U.S. and Mexico are continuing. President Trump spoke with Mexico's president on Thursday, and both sides agreed to extend the discussions for another 90 days. Republican Congressman Don Bacon, meanwhile, says he's unhappy with much of Trump's trade policies.
Well, I don't really agree with two-thirds of his tariff policy. Some of it I think we do need. China is a bad trade partner. The EU, though they don't have tariffs, they have barriers. So there needed to be some discussions there, not necessarily a trade war. So I'm not against all tariffs, but I think what the president has done has not been very helpful.
Trump, meanwhile, announced new higher tariffs for more than 60 countries this week. Major portions of the European Union's new legislation governing artificial intelligence have now come into force. Terry Schultz reports.
A year after the EU's AI Act went into effect, the next stage in implementing the landmark legislation began Saturday. The act is aimed at making sure artificial intelligence is used safely and responsibly, and regulates AI systems based on their perceived level of potential risk to users. Some of the latest obligations affect providers of general-purpose AI, or GPAI models, which include X's Grok and OpenAI's ChatGPT. The rules require more transparency on how AI models are trained and better enforcement of copyright protections. The EU has created a code of practice with the help of experts to give providers guidance on complying with the new requirements. Signing up to the code is voluntary. Meta is the only major provider that has refused to do so. For NPR News, I'm Terry Schultz.
U.S. companies operating in Europe Europe, meanwhile, must also follow the regulations, which has led to complaints from some businesses. 2 families, including 3 children who are U.S. citizens, were deported from Louisiana to Honduras earlier this year. Now they're suing ICE for allegedly violating their due process rights by deporting them without a trial. Mel Bridges of member station WRKF has more.
The lawsuit filed by the National Immigration Project and others is on behalf of 2 New Orleans-based Honduran mothers and their 3 American children, including a 5-year-old boy undergoing treatment for kidney cancer. The families were detained in April after the mothers attended a regular ICE check-in. The suit alleges the mothers were not given access to legal counsel or allowed to choose whether their children would be deported. The lawsuit says one of the mothers wanted her son to stay so he could keep receiving cancer treatment. The Trump administration has said the mothers chose to have their children deported with them. The lawsuit asks for a jury trial and relief from damages. For NPR News, I'm Mel Bridges in Baton Rouge.
A search is continuing in Montana at this hour for an Army veteran who they say opened fire at a bar in Anaconda Friday morning, killing 4 people. Police say the search is focused on a mountainous area in the western part of the state. While a lockdown was lifted on Saturday, police say residents in the area should remain on high alert. They say 45-year-old Michael Brown may still be armed and dangerous. You're listening to NPR News. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, also known as DRC, has plans to carve up more than half the country into blocks for fossil fuels. As NPR's Julia Simon reports, this means drilling in crucial habitats for gorillas.
The DRC recently opened 306 million acres for oil blocks. A new report from Earth Insight, a research group, finds 64% of the area is intact tropical forest. These forests are full of biodiversity, including endangered gorillas, bonobos, and vast amounts of carbon stored in trees and peatlands. They're also home to tens of millions of people, many indigenous. The economics of large new oil developments like this are also in question. As the world transitions away from fossil fuels to renewable energy, batteries, and geothermal, countries like DRC could be stuck with stranded assets. That is, assets with little value. Julia Simon, NPR News.
Major League Baseball's Speedway Classic was suspended on Saturday because of rain. The game is the first ever regular season game played in the state. The game between the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds was stopped by rain before there even was a first pitch. Once it finally began, it was stopped again. The game will now take place Sunday afternoon. Cameron Young holds a 5-stroke lead going into Sunday's final round at the PGA event underway in Greensboro, North Carolina. On Saturday, he made a pair of late birdies to walk away with a 5-shot lead over Nico Echeverria. No one else is closer than 8 shots. Young is considered to be the best player without a win on the main PGA Tour. He has finished as runner-up 7 times. I'm Dale Willman, NPR News.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch.
This message comes from Capital One with the Venture X card. Earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, get premium benefits at a collection of hotels when booking through Capital One Travel. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witcof remains in Israel this weekend. On Friday, he visited a much-criticized food distribution site in Gaza, and he was in Tel Aviv on Saturday, where he met with the families of some of the remaining hostages still being held in Gaza. NPR's Emily Fang has more.
Previous ceasefire negotiations to bring back 10 of the approximately 20 living hostages stalled late last month. Now, Witcof says in a statement released by an organization representing hostages' families that the goal is to bring back all 50 hostages, dead or alive. The issue of the hostages has divided Israeli society, with the hostages' families accusing Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of delaying a ceasefire that would bring their loved ones back. Vicky Cohen is the mother of Nimrod Cohen, an Israeli soldier kidnapped during the Hamas-led attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023. Many families praised Witcof and President Trump for their help, but Cohen says at the end of the day, it is the government of Israel that is responsible for bringing the hostages home. Emily Fang, NPR News.
Senate Democrats are criticizing President Trump's latest round of sweeping tariffs. Trump announced this week that he'll raise tariffs on more than 60 countries starting August 7th. Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut says the U.S. is already feeling a drag on the economy from the current tariffs.
The president is going to inflict a wound on our economy that's going to be devastating to Americans who pay more for groceries, construction, baby products already.
The stock market, meanwhile, dropped on Friday after the latest jobs report showed hiring slowed drastically. A bill that would dramatically redraw state congressional maps has advanced in the GOP-led Texas House of Representatives. As Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider reports, the move increases the chances that Democrats will temporarily leave the state to deny Republicans the minimum number of legislators needed for the House to function.
The map legislation passed the redistricting committee on a party-line vote. That followed a day of testimony in which those opposing the measure outnumbered supporters 100-1, a point Democratic State Representative John Rosenthal made.
I think even conservative, true, conscientious conservative Texans know this is a racist attack on black and brown communities, and I won't stand for it. We will continue to fight this with everything we have.
The last time Texas Democrats broke quorum was 4 years ago to block the passage of election legislation during a special session. Governor Greg Abbott responded by calling another special session, and the quorum break ultimately collapsed. For NPR News, I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
Pope Leo XIV is urging young people to make radical choices for good. The Pope was speaking Saturday at the Vatican's Jubilee of Youth. He spoke about the dangers of social media as well as the value of true friendship. You're listening to NPR News. Cambodia is preparing to nominate President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. The decision comes after recent border clashes between Cambodia and its neighbor Thailand were reportedly resolved in part due to an intervention by Trump. From Taipei, Jan Kamensin Brumby has more.
The border clashes between the two Southeast Asian nations killed more than 40 people and displaced more than 300,000. The 5-day dispute was ended in part thanks to a phone call by President Trump that helped to break the deadlock in ceasefire negotiations. Cambodia has thanked Trump for bringing peace to the region. Trump has done much to, quote, advance fellowship between nations, Cambodia's Deputy Prime Minister Sun Chantol said. Chantol added, quote, we acknowledge his great efforts for peace. Thailand has since returned 2 wounded Cambodian soldiers, but is reportedly holding on to 18 more. For NPR News, I'm Jan Kamensin Brumby in Taipei.
Former Fox television host Jeanine Pirro has been confirmed by the Senate to be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. She has served in an acting capacity in the job since May. Before the initial appointment, she had hosted the Fox program The Five on weekend evenings, where she frequently interviewed President Trump. A small earthquake in northern New Jersey Saturday shook parts of the region, including in New York City. The quake measured a magnitude of 3.0. There have so far been no reports of injuries or damage. Experts say there could be aftershocks. A magnitude 4.8 earthquake hit the same area in April of last year. I'm Dale Willman, NPR News.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch.
This message comes from Capital One with the Venture X card. Earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, get premium benefits at a collection of hotels when booking through Capital One Travel. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. A manhunt is continuing in Montana at this hour for a gunman suspected of shooting and killing 4 people in a bar on Friday. Montana Public Radio's Shaylee Rhagar reports.
3 patrons and a bartender were pronounced dead at the scene Friday morning at the Owl Bar in Anaconda, an old mining town in the mountains of western Montana. A population of about 10,000 people, the town was put under lockdown as law enforcement began their pursuit of the suspected shooter. Authorities identified him as a local resident resident and U.S. Army veteran Michael Brown. The Montana Division of Criminal Investigation led a search through the night. Brown's car was found west of town Friday, but he was not with it. He is still at large. Law enforcement believes he's armed and dangerous. For NPR News, I'm Shaylee Rager in Helena.
The U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East met Saturday with some families of hostages still being held by Gaza. Ruby Chen is the father of U.S.-Israeli hostage Itay Chen. He says Steve Witkoff told the families that the U.S. wants two things: to end the war and get all the remaining hostages out.
We feel that Mr. Witkoff is very much with the families. He feels us, he understands us, and he said that he's going back to Washington, where he will share these stories with the president himself.
After the meeting, Witkoff told the families the U.S. is very close to ending the war. Gaza health officials, meanwhile, say Israeli forces killed at least 10 people who were waiting for aid on Saturday. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals says Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in Southern California must continue to establish probable cause before detaining people in immigration raids. Steve Futterman reports.
The decision by a three-judge panel upholds a lower court ruling that said many of the detainments were based on a person's appearance, language, or job. Many officials here have complained about the way the arrests have taken place, including LA Mayor Karen Bass.
A car will pull up, men will jump out, completely masked, pull guns on whoever it is, and take them away.
In their ruling, the judges said the arrests appear to be taking place without reasonable suspicion. A lawyer for the Trump administration argued that they were based on individualized assessments. The Trump administration could now ask for the entire Ninth Circuit to review the case or try to take it to the Supreme Court. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
A small earthquake hit northern New Jersey on Saturday. There are no reports of damage or injuries so far. The quake was felt throughout the tri-state area. India says it will continue to buy Russian oil. President Trump had announced this week that he will impose a 25% tariff on goods from India, plus an additional import tax because of India's Russian oil purchases. In response, India's foreign ministry says its relationship with Russia is steady and remains time-tested. You're listening to NPR News. About 2,000 people rallied in Bangkok on Saturday to demand the resignation of Thailand's prime minister. The official is currently facing a court suspension. The protest follows a violent border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia that left more than 40 people dead and displaced some 260,000 people. One of the Bluegrass State's most storied political traditions, the St. Jerome Picnic in Fancy Farm, took place Saturday in far western Kentucky. Derek Operly with member station WKMS has our story.
A multitude turned out for a day filled with barbecue, community, and political speeches riddled with jabs and jokes. The Fancy Farm Picnic has been around longer than some states, with this year being the event's 145th edition. Speakers included U.S. Representative Jamie Comer and Senator Mitch McConnell. The soon-to-retire McConnell lauded Kentucky's support of Trump and the GOP.
My top goal last year was to make sure our president had a Republican Senate from day one. Well, boy, did we get it done. And Republicans will do it again and again and again.
Only one Democrat spoke at the picnic, and a trio of Republican candidates faced off in front of the crowd, jockeying to see who will vie for McConnell's open Senate seat next year. For NPR News, I'm Derek Operly in Fancy Farm, Kentucky.
World Player of the Year Marta came off the bench to score twice for Brazil as Brazil came from behind to beat Colombia on Saturday 5-4. The win gave Brazil their 9th Copa America Femenina soccer title. Marta scored in the 6th minute of stoppage time to take the game into a shootout. Brazil's goalkeeper made 2 saves to give Brazil the win. I'm Dale Willman, NPR News.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch.